Welcome to Pass the Baton, empowering students in music education. Here, we amplify the voices of music teachers around the world who are passing the baton and creating environments where the music students are empowered. Together, we can help students transform from passive consumers to vibrant creatives. Welcome back to the Pass the Baton podcast. I'm Kathryn Finch.
And I'm Theresa Hoover, and welcome to season 5 of the podcast.
Yay!
We're so glad that you're here.
Season 5. Can you believe it?
I know. Very exciting. Very exciting. So today we're going to talk about an important topic, especially for this time of the year, if you're listening when this comes out, how to think about setting up your classroom intentionally, day one, to really have an environment where students feel empowered. So that's going to be our focus today.
Yeah.
So I guess before we get to that, though, if you're new to the podcast, we'll give you a little bit of background. So again, I'm Theresa. I'm a former elementary middle school band director, and I'm actually this school year starting a new job, college professor, working at East Carolina University, working with undergraduate and graduate level music education majors, which is super exciting.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
a
my
big
co-host.
Yeah. And I am a K-5 general music teacher. I specialize with the littles. And so it'll be really interesting to talk to you this fall, Theresa, with, we've got the opposite ends.
Absolutely. Although sometimes they say that, the college students aren't that much different than middle school.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, it will be fun. And that's one thing I've always really appreciated working with you is that we do bring different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
So again, going into some background, if you're new, in 2020, Kathryn and I published the book Pass the Baton, Empowering All Music Students, which we wrote that as a resource for teachers. We had been doing a lot of different things in our classroom, trying new things, trying to figure out, again, how to make it so that the students had more ownership, how to get them more engaged, how to get them more invested, make it more meaningful. So we used everything that we tried and everything we learned at that time, put it into our book, Pass the Baton. But again, I think one of the real great things about that book was the perspective. You were able to speak from an elementary general music perspective. I was able to speak from more of an ensemble type perspective. And I think that brought a lot to it.
Yeah. I learned so much from what you would say about something and probably vice versa. But yeah,
100%.
And 4 seasons of Pass the Baton, we still continue to talk to other people all around the world with different perspectives, different kinds of programs, different kids in front of them. And you always learning something.
Yeah, I love it. And, with that, I feel like every school year, I always have to think about okay, what are my goals for this upcoming year? Because it can't necessarily be the same as last year. Obviously, it's still the music making is a goal, but I'm always thinking about, okay, we're going into a new year. What is my focus going to be? What am I really going to, be driving my energy towards? And I think for me this year, going into a new teaching situation, the biggest thing that I need to remind myself regularly is to listen. And, a sneak peek for one of our upcoming guests this season, that this person also really talked about the importance of listening. So for me, I need to listen. I need to learn about the school. I need to learn about the culture, the people. I need to learn about everything and then use that to figure out how I fit, right? Of course, I have ideas going in of what I hope that I can bring, but I have to remember to listen first. So I think that's my big focus for the year. What about you, Kathryn?
Yeah. I mean, and again, we've got some great podcasts coming up, episodes. And I think for me, a theme that's kind of been happening within some of our episodes is people keep talking about meeting kids where they're at. And you being the teacher, you have that power of how can I connect with you? And you're going to be different than the next class and then, and the next child. And it's just, how do I really find out where you really are at, and how do I meet you and help move you forward and make a connection with you? Yeah. And again, it's we've said it, but it's sometimes, it's the ups and downs of teaching, right? It's the frustration of oh, I don't understand this kid or whatever. And then oh my gosh, we made a connection. And it's, it's the rewarding piece. And I don't know if it would be as rewarding if there weren't those ups and downs with people and learning and all the things. So Yeah.
No, that's really true. Yep. And I think through all of this, one of the big things that we have to just continually remind ourselves is why we do it, right? And the why, thinking about your why sometimes got a bad rap, especially during the pandemic. But I always think about why, and I go back to Simon Sinek, right? I love Simon Sinek. He was a great author, speaker, all of that. But he says that we as in humans have to start with why in everything that we do. And the why is really it's the catalyst for how we move forward. The what and the how, they come later, but we think about our why. So for me, and I think for you as well, Kathryn, we talked
Yeah.
about this a lot in Pass the Baton. Like, our why is this idea of lifelong independent musicians, students who leave our classroom and music is still part of their life in some way. Now, we're not saying that they all need to be professional musicians. That is not
Right.
that's
No.
not the goal, but how are we helping them cultivate whatever it is that they need so that when they leave us, they still feel musical and want to be musical?
Yeah. I think for me, it was always, lifelong musicians. And then as of late, it's been like confident, independent, lifelong musicians,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
they can leave Mrs. Finch's classroom and they don't need me to figure out how to do something
Mm-hmm.
in a musical, right? Like I don't want them to be like, whoops, well, I can't tune this instrument. So Mrs. Finch did it for me. And so now I can't do this. Like,
Right.
no, I want them to know how I could figure it out if I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
right? And the
Yeah.
confidence to be able to figure it out.
Right. Well, and part of that independence comes too. It's like maybe we're not going to teach them every single musical skill possible in our class,
Yeah.
but we're also giving them the tools so that when they say, "Oh, well, I played ukulele in Mrs. Finch's class. I think I want to learn the guitar."
Yeah.
Like, I bet you I can do that because of what I learned from
Hmm.
with Mrs. Finch, or just any of those things, that they have the confidence to try something new musically, even if it's not exactly what we did. Because I don't
Right.
know about you, like, I I don't care how they make music in their lives as long as it's meaningful and they enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, when we started writing Pass the Baton, we kind of defined empowerment. We called it the qualities of empowerment. Um, and just thinking of things that we as teachers needed to consider when we were, working through our classes and whatnot. And those qualities being, the students have a voice in the classroom. And this is something I've been adding, to my mindset a lot, is that not only do I think the students have a voice, but students think they have a voice, right? That's
Yes.
an important distinction there. Students have voice. They can make choices in the classroom. They have opportunities to create their own music. They feel connected to others, either other people in the building, other schools, other students, professional. Like, they're connected musically, not just inside the classroom. They have opportunities to ask questions and really be those inquisitive thinkers. And finally, they have opportunities to take ownership. That's kind of what that's like the foundation for how we've built a lot of this work. And we notice when we talk to guests on the podcast, they have similar things that they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's when you thinking about some of the guests we have coming up too, like it's really just in general, like listening to kids,
Mm-hmm.
understanding them, and like I guess when you were saying all those qualities, like, gosh, that's a student who feels heard, that feels
Yeah.
heard,
Yeah.
that belongs in that community, and it's a powerful, powerful thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the big questions we can ask ourselves, and I ask myself this anytime I'm planning a lesson, is
Yeah.
what decisions am I making that the students could be making?
Yep. And I think it's not going to be something that I'm going to somehow master that and then from the next day on never think about it again. Like, no, we're always thinking that, because
Yeah.
it's so easy to fall back into something that's comfortable. It's so
Yeah.
easy to just get distracted by all the teacher things that we have to do, whatever it is, right? There's
Yeah.
just so many distractions. It's just got to be something at the forefront.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. It's something that I'm always thinking about, and always finding new ways too, right? Maybe
Hmm.
I did it one way one year and now I'm doing something different the next year.
Yeah.
But what we've found is if you can start thinking about that and thinking that way from the beginning of the school year, it also makes it easier,
Hmm.
right? So that was kind of the focus for today's podcast episode, was thinking about how can we start the school year with this mindset so that we're
Yes.
really setting everybody up for success.
Right. Intentional in the physical classroom setup to being intentional in the lesson planning and the learning experience in the room, right?
Yeah.
All of that. There's so that's our how, right? That's how we're going to get
Yeah.
to a truly empowered classroom. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That
Yep.
intentional thinking.
Right. Okay. So what would you say? What's one of the first things that teachers are going to think about when they're getting ready for this school year?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think of my classroom. It's got
Yeah.
to look ready. It's got to look ready.
Hmm.
And when you're making it look ready, are there places that when kids walk in, the first impression, I see myself, or this is an engaging place for me, or I feel
Hmm.
welcome here, right? That's why so many of us spend so much time on our room. We want it to be that place, right?
Right. Yep, absolutely. And with that, how can we think about the space as being not just my teacher
Yeah.
space, but our music making space?
Yeah.
And I know that that's tricky because it's not like we are I'm a fourth grade teacher who has my 27 kids all day long. We're
Right.
music teachers, so we've got potentially the whole building at some point.
Oh, yeah.
So making that space feel like it belongs to all of us can totally be challenging.
Hmm.
Um, but it's also it's doable, right? It's
Yeah.
totally something we could do. One thing that I did quite a bit, both the elementary school and the middle school, was I had this we called it the student center, and it was the place in the room where the students could go get whatever they needed for their instrument, for if they needed another piece of sheet music that they lost, if they needed a rubber band for their violin, if they a pencil, anything like that was in one spot, and the kids knew where it was.
Hmm.
And what that did was, again, it gave them that ownership, like, oh, I forgot my valve oil. Well, I know that I can go over there and get it. So they had that autonomy. The benefit also was I didn't have 7 kids at the beginning of the class period going, I forgot my I need. None
Yeah.
of that was happening because they knew where to get it.
Yeah.
And then we even took it a step farther, and I would have one student or two or whatever who they were in charge of, like, maintaining that area. So they would be in charge of, like, oh, we are out of this. And then that student would come tell me, hey, we're out of cork grease, or hey, the pencils need to be sharpened. Great, sharpen the pencils. There was always a student who was in charge of making sure that space was what it needed to be. So again, it's taking things off my plate, but it's giving them, no, you have the autonomy. Again, you can go get what you need, right?
Yeah.
If you need this, you can have your needs met. So
I think,
that for me worked well.
yeah, I think for me, it's just literally that. Like, in this room, you take care of yourself. And if you
Mhm.
need something, you just go there and do it. That's a basic need. Just do
Yep.
it. And to me,
Yep.
that message is like, it doesn't really even matter what's in the student center anymore. Like, it's just the
Yeah.
message that's sent. But yeah,
Yeah.
in my elementary music student center, we've got, the Kleenex and the
Oh
Band-Aids,
yeah. Yep. Yep.
but the clipboards and the dry erase boards. So when I do have student leaders who are like, okay, your job is to pass out these things, everything, they just know where it is.
Mhm.
It's always going to be in that student center. Pencils,
Yep.
whatever, and sometimes I put things there because I know we're going to need them for that day. So, but it's just like everyone knows if I need something, it's going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Other things that you can do, having like a suggestion box or a place where students can leave notes to you with things that they're thinking about, things that are on their mind that maybe they don't want to either say out loud, or there just isn't an opportunity.
yeah.
You could think about having like a wonder board of some sort where students, if there's things they're curious about and they want to learn more, maybe just put a post-it up on the board with whatever you're thinking, and that gives the teacher, gives us this opportunity to be like, oh, okay, well, we've got kids who are want to dig deeper into where can we make that happen. So
Yeah.
we're just making that space.
Yeah. I think another thing I just was thinking about that's kind of just happened over a couple of last 3 years or so is putting up student work from, like we always have a big musical. It's such a big deal at our school as the musical. And so, like sometimes I have to like ask the art teacher, like, can I please have those things? Like, don't put them in, like there's only
Yeah.
so much you could keep, right?
Of course. Of
But
course.
they're the kids made all these things for our musical and they're adorable. And so they just go up on my walls in different places.
Yeah.
And I think kids really like to see their work, even if it's the fifth grade's work from last year. So just putting
Yeah.
up things like that
Hmm.
sparks questions, sparks excitement, all the things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of going beyond the physical space, then we have to think about, you know, that initial meeting the students and how we're going to be engaging with them and building that rapport. Um, First thing is use their names and pronounce them correctly as much as you can from day one. And if
Yeah.
that means you constantly have a seating chart in front of you so that when you're calling on someone, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I have kids that return from every year, but
Hmm.
sometimes like on the first day, I will put them in a seating chart because it's been summer and
Yeah.
my brain is sometimes still in summer brain. I've got to dust it off, but I can do a quick get them in a seat and then I've refreshed face to
Yeah.
name. Of course it comes
Yeah.
back quickly, but
Yeah.
it's really important to be able to say names and how are you
Yeah.
doing? And then
Yeah.
that reminds you to talk about their new dog they got right before school ended
Yeah.
or
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you're someone who's in a new job, a new building,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean, we'll talk, you'll hear us talk throughout the podcast and throughout the books and all those things about like, oh, giving kids a choice in where they sit and blah, blah. I personally think the first couple of days of school, it's okay to do seating charts
Sure.
if that's going to help you learn their names better, right?
Yeah.
Or if you can have pictures, right? Something just to help you, and then make it a point that every time you address a kid, you use their name,
Yeah.
right? Because the more you do that, the easier it will become. Something
Yeah.
I'm always talking to the in serve or the pre-service teachers about, like just use their names from the beginning. But there's so many, I know, but you got to practice.
You got it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But yeah, and then once you've got them, right, and you're connecting with them, then I think it's so powerful to collaborate with them on like the expectations of the classroom.
Yes,
What is
yes.
our room going to be like? That's really powerful to do with
Hmm.
the kids. And I mean, I think I've found that while I love it because you get the kid language,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
But also they're all very similar,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the nuances are great. You kind of learn a little bit about each class with their
Hmm.
little nuances that they think are important. So I think it's great with those because I just do it digitally. So you just can every time you have that class, you can pull up, and they're one after another. So you just have them ready
Yeah,
to go. But um, constructing those expectations are with them is really
yeah.
important.
I remember doing a similar activity when I started a new job at a middle school, and it was something where we had opened a brand new middle school, so kids had come from the three different middle schools in our
Oh,
county. And that activity was eye opening just to learn about what their previous band experiences had been,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Hearing them say what they thought some of the expectations were just gave me that insight. I didn't have to say, tell me about band in your previous school. That told me what I needed to know. And that helped me figure out, okay, here's how we can work together the best. So you really, like you were saying, you can learn so much from that kind of activity and just how they speak about what they think a good classroom environment would be.
yeah.
And then I guess without too, just as all these things are happening, take note of who's talking the most. Is
Yeah.
it is it you? Is it the students? Are there some students who aren't contributing any? Are there some who are, kind of dominating the conversation? Are the students not saying much at all and you're finding you have to do a lot of the talking? I think that'll bring to light, okay, what is our current classroom dynamic and how can we make it so that it is more of a community where everyone has a voice, everyone feels they have a voice, and it's not just a matter of, only the teacher gets to give their opinions.
Yeah. And it for me, when I started to ask myself that question, I then started to see within my lesson structure just places where I could find different ways for them to actively speak and talk to people. So
Right.
it's not like you just have to look at your lesson and go, oh my gosh, so just throw it out the window. Like, no, it's just
No.
where okay, but where can you have some places for them to talk or offer their suggestions? And
Yep.
is it okay to go around the circle and have everybody say something? Yes, that's not wasting
Hmm.
time. That's
No.
that's valuable
No.
time.
No. And if you're if you're worried about students, not wanting to share, start with just a think pair share, right?
Hmm.
Have them turn to the person next to you and share with that person, right? So
Hmm.
give them that little bit of security if they're not quite ready. Or
Hmm.
or that also could be like, if I know I do only have this much time, start with that and then gradually get yourself to the point where everyone is able to share.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of brings us to this idea of thinking about your lesson planning, right?
Yeah.
We are teachers. It is our responsibility to think about these things. And when you're planning, asking yourself at the beginning, like, where are those opportunities for students to talk? Where are the opportunities for them to make some choices, some musical decisions, and thinking like that. Um,
I
so you're
mean,
gonna go ahead.
oh, you just, yeah, like, and what is the learner experience? Oh,
Mhm.
they're sitting and doing this, and they're sitting and doing this, and they're sitting. Okay, wait, what if I have a move first and then we sit? They'll be
Yeah,
comfortable sitting, but then we move again, or we move to a different part of the room. I mean,
yeah,
just thinking about the learner experience of like, what am I asking them to do?
hmm
Um, yeah.
yeah. What am I asking them to say? What am I asking them to do? When am I getting them to think?
Hmm.
That, are the students just taking in information, or are they actually thinking? Who's doing that work in the classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess also with that is really thinking about, how do we make sure that all students are
Hmm.
also, being engaged in this way? It's really easy to call on the student who always has their hand up first.
Right.
That's easy. I think sometimes we're uncomfortable with the wait time. We don't like
Hmm.
silence, right? But how can we really think about making sure that all of the students do that? Um, so I try to just be very, very aware of engaging the quieter kids, or engaging the kids who might feel like they're not quite where the rest of the class is, so that they have that voice and they can be participating as well.
Yeah. And I think just switching out how you do things sometimes, right? Like at the beginning, we might do like a would you rather, and there's lots of kids who love to move and share their would you rather
Mhm.
with a movement. But then there's other kids who are super quiet, who love the dry erase board activity where you ask them all to write something down and they just turn it around and show you.
Mhm.
And again, I'll see that quiet kids thinking because they didn't have to talk to me, but they could show me on their
Yeah.
board.
Yeah.
And it's still a very quiet, not no one's looking at me kind of activity, right?
Mhm.
But and or like we said before, talk to a partner. There's so many kids that are we've got people say like, oh my gosh, this class is so talkative, they just love to talk. Let them talk. Give
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
something to talk about, and like they will talk about it. There are just, right, like there's just different kinds of learning styles, and you've got to give them different ways to express themselves.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And with all of these things that we're thinking about voice and choice, I feel like we have to also remember that music is creative. It is a creative art. It is more than just recreating someone else's music, but actually being able to put our own being into that. And also, music is collaborative. Music is meant to be done, in a group with people, like all of those things. So when we're thinking about what we're doing with our students, do they have opportunities to create music, create their own music? Right. And that might start with just small musical decisions, but it can then grow into more improvisation, composition, doing things where students really have the opportunity to try something new on their own. I know as a kid, for me, I was, in very traditional music programs. And if someone, and then when I got to high school, I joined the jazz band, and they said, okay, now we're going to go around and everybody's going to improvise. And I was like a deer in headlights, because I had
Yeah.
never, I mean, okay, probably in elementary school, because I know I had a wonderful, but never on my instrument. Right.
Yeah.
So, it, and that's just like, my personal example, but just thinking about, where can we be encouraging students to try something on their instrument, to create something. And that kind of goes along with like risk taking too, right? Being able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's setting up that your culture, right, from the very beginning
Mhm.
of this is going to be a safe space. This is going to be a
Yeah.
space, this is our space. Like we can't ask kids to anybody to, take that higher risk. Some people will, but it's harder when it's, so high risks, you got to think about like, how am I taking care of you so that you're
Mm,
willing to take that high risk?
yeah.
Um, yeah, we got
Yeah.
to be very intentional about that.
Yeah. So we can build in opportunities for this creativity. And I think, make it a goal. Try to do, depending on how often you see your students, try to do something creative every class or every week or something like that, where students are getting to try something and just see what happens. Whether that's going to be a basic improvisation game with like melodic or rhythmic patterns. That's easy. It's pretty safe. Um, in fact, we have an improvisation activity that's like a written up resource. I'll put a link to that in the show notes if you were like, I would love to, but I don't know where to start.
Right, right.
We'll put that in there because that's just a great. It kind of defines how to go through the steps so that students feel safe. Unlike how I felt again that first day in jazz band where I wanted to crawl under the piano bench, but it kind of works them up towards being able to feel like they can do some improvisation. What are some other examples of like things that you've done towards the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think it validates for me the name game kind of things we do in a circle, because that, or just like a circle games that we can do in elementary school. Because at first they're so simple and they're kind of silly, and it's like, why are we doing this? And you're like, no, we're doing this because like it's a very low risk, fun thing to
Mm.
do. For example, so like a name game could be just like, um, gosh, it left me. Oh, there's one I do, like beat, beat, put it in your feet. Tell me your name and we'll give you a treat. And what the kids do is just they say their name, but they say it in a funny voice or with a silly movement or whatever it is. And kids like to be silly. And then as we go around the circle, we're saying it's kind of an add on. So we're saying
Mm.
everybody's name as we go through. So we're saying your name. What it kind of ends up happening is like somebody ends up being like, I don't know, like Mrs. Finch, like a robot or something. And like when a kid sees you, then they just kind of relate, like Mrs. Finch, and I do your robot thing. And it's just a connection, right? But
Yeah.
like we're improving slightly. We're just doing something a little bit different. Oh, and then there's some kids who just say their name. Like there's no wrong answer. I guess that's what I'm
Right.
trying to say too. There's no wrong answer.
Right.
You do your thing. We have fun together. But those I think are really great ways to really start at the very beginning of coming up with generating your own musical idea,
Yeah.
right? Very,
Yeah.
very low risk, very simple.
But you have
Um,
to start there. You have
of
to start
course.
there.
Well, it's the
Yeah.
first day too, right? Like we're
Yeah.
doing things and we're having fun, but you also don't want to make it this big thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. So there's many different things you could do. You know, again, like getting kids to share with a partner musical ideas or getting
Yeah.
them to kind of try things in little safe ways where they're going to realize like, oh, this is what we do here. This
Yeah.
is what we do in music class. We're going to be creators of music as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just some other things to kind of think about. We're talking right now about the beginning of the school year, but it doesn't stop there. you
No.
know so you start your school year thinking about really having opportunities for voice and choice, having opportunities for creativity, and then how can we just continue to build upon that as the school year progresses.
Yeah. I mean, it's that first day you want to make that great impression, but then keep going, right? Like
Yeah.
keep making that a priority in your
Hmm.
day, in your classroom, being intentional about being responsive to the kids in front of you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and constantly like reflecting too, thinking
Yeah.
about, okay, where did I offer opportunities for voice and choice today? Were the students actively doing things during music class, or was it more of a passive engagement today? Like, but being able to look at what you're doing, look at your classroom, and look at it with an open mind and open heart, right? We're not to be critical of ourselves, but just to say
No.
like, okay, this is what it looks like, and here are some of my goals for next time. So it's not, again, we're not being critical and saying, "Oh, I didn't do enough." No, just take it in. This is what it is, and this is how I'm going to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I think a really, really big one is the students reflecting,
Yeah,
right? Like, what are the
absolutely.
students getting out of it? When you have those conversations with them, you really understand where they're at, where each of them
Yes.
are at. And
Hmm.
also, like you and I joke a lot, or not joke about it, but like, oh, there was a hole in my teaching. Like
Yes.
we didn't know or something, completely because everybody kind of went this direction or whatever it is. But like, yeah, when the kids are taking that active role and
Mhm.
reflecting on their own learning, you learn so much, but also then they do too. They know where they are, they know
Absolutely.
where they need to go next. That's like
Yeah.
home run, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we said it at the beginning, independent, right? Confident
Confidence, life.
musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they need to be able to think about what they do as musicians. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we talked at the beginning a little bit about the book Pass the Baton, and one of the things that we were really intentional about with that book was at the end of each chapter we had a list of things you can try tomorrow, because we recognize sometimes these ideas are big. They feel like, oh goodness, like I'm going to need a lot to make that change happen, but at the same time there are also a lot of small, actionable, bite sized ideas that you can implement in the classroom tomorrow that will make a big difference for your students. So, Kathryn, you have any suggestions? What's something that they could try tomorrow? Or if you're not in the classroom yet, when you are in the classroom,
Yeah. When you start.
if it is
Yeah.
still summer for you, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's such a little question, but such a impactful question of just
Mm-hmm.
what do you want to learn?
Yeah.
What do you want to learn in music? And you'll get a variety of things. Write them down. I last year I did that. I wrote them down for each class after we did our shared expectations together.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted it on the board where I plan and sit and think.
Yeah.
And it was like when I could look at it and make some connections and pull something out of what they wanted, like it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to also then say that day, like, hey, we are going to do this thing that someone was interested in because it's going to work, whatever. But like it just making those connections. What do they want to learn?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a just such a valuable question. And I think the fact that you ask it makes the students feel good, right?
Yeah.
So just asking it's the first big step. And then when you're able to implement those things is even better.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if to me, I think it makes a difference. I have a Google Doc ready to go, and then they watch me typing it as I
Yep.
want them to see, like, I am taking notes. I am writing these
That's
things down
awesome.
and trying to use your wording. Like, I
Hmm.
want you to be heard. And then again, like I said, once we do something that it connects to what they had said, make sure I let them know, like, hey, I got this from your idea to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So to recap,
Yeah.
hopefully this wasn't too much to process. Think about think about the classroom, right? Is it a welcoming environment? Is it inclusive? Can all of your students really see themselves in the
Mhm.
space when they walk in the door?
Yeah. And do they feel at home in your room? Do they feel like it
Mhm.
is our classroom is really
Yes.
important for sure.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah.
And then from there, when you're thinking about, planning lessons, designing learning experiences, where is the student choice? Where are the student voices? So asking yourself, okay, where are these opportunities that I can put into the lesson plan as we go?
Hmm. And the doing, right? What are the kids doing? Are they creating and are they
Yeah.
collaborating? Because that's such a creating and collaboration and the music is
Yeah.
it's all we do, right? And so
Hmm.
what are they actively participating in? What are they doing?
Hmm.
Um, and creating, generating ideas of their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, thinking about that reflective piece, right? Both for you and for the students, providing opportunities for yourself to really reflect on what's happening in the classroom, and then where you want it to go. And for students to think about, where am I as a musician? Where do I want to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess for all listening, like I guess a question for you is what resonates with you and for your unique set of students? Because again, I wish both of us wish we could just kind of make something, package it out and say, here's the solution, but that doesn't exist. It
Nope.
does not
Nope.
exist.
No.
Right. But
Because
how can you be more intentional in your classroom, in your lesson design with the unique students that you have in your room?
yeah, Absolutely. That's the key. So just please remember, as you know, you're going into this next school year, that you do have control over a lot of the things in your classroom. Again, kind of a foreshadowing for a future guest, but thinking about the autonomy that you as a teacher do have. And I think some
Yeah.
of us, we think we don't, but we maybe have more than we realize. And we can use our own autonomy to then open the door so that the students can feel that as well. So that the students can really feel like it's their classroom and it's their musical journey and that we are there to support them in that.
Yeah. And that's what makes it rewarding to be the teacher, to find that joy and to find that connection with your kids.
Yeah,
So, yeah, wishing everybody
absolutely.
a great school year.
Yeah. And as we kind of were teasing through, the episode today, we have some really awesome interviews coming up this season.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for you to all to hear them. So make sure you tune in. Again, if you're new to the podcast, we'll release an episode every other week. Usually comes out on a Monday. And yeah, we hope you love them as much as we do.
Before you go, if you're ready to make powerful shifts towards student-centered learning, explore the Pass the Baton Coffee Club. Members get an exclusive deeper dive audio extra and a Reflect and Act PDF download after every episode, plus access to our full resource library.
For more personal support, our premium tier offers direct access to Kathryn and Theresa in a private Voxer group. Visit buymeacoffee.com/passthebaton to learn more and join. Thanks for joining us. If you have found value in our conversation, please hit that like button, subscribe to our podcast, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us grow our community of passionate music educators.